Hello, everyone. My name is David Reed, and welcome to episode 153 of Dial of the Gate. Thank you for tuning in and being with us. I hope for the Americans watching, I hope your Thanksgiving was good. We have Martin Wood, producer, director of Stargate, in pretty much all of its iterations, with us here for another episode. We're going to focus on more of the some of the more technical episodes, in particular, some of the more amazing things that they pulled off visually, in both in camera and with visual effects. Before we get started, if you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean a great deal if you click that like button. It helps with the show's audience and will help it continue to grow. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click that subscribe icon. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next few weeks on the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. Since this is a live episode of Dial the Gate and not pre-recorded, Martin is with me now. So if you are joining us in YouTube chat and you see you have a question that you'd like to ask Martin, go ahead and submit it to the moderators there, and they will get it to me on the back end. And in the second half of the show, I will be turning the show over to those questions. So without further ado, producer, director, Martin Wood. Sir, it is always a pleasure to have you. You are so insightful and are so key to everything that happened to make this franchise possible. So I am grateful to have you back.
Point, David, at some point, I will figure out who's been paying you to say those things. You will stop that.
It's my heart. It's straight from my heart. So always a treat, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you so much.
So how is you're continuing with Virgin River, and
Just finished the fifth season of it and did a couple of massive shows in it this time. The mid shows, the midpoint shows, number 5 and 6 are always a bit bigger than the rest, and this year was absolutely no exception.
Okay. I've never seen it, Martin. Pitch me Virgin River. Pitch me this show, because we discussed it. It's like, I need to sit down and I need to watch this, because I know that the caliber of the talent is great in it. For the Stargate fans who love your work, what give us a real good reason to sink our teeth into this, besides the fact that one of our favorite directors is involved.
Oh, well, I mean, Terrell's involved. Terrell Rothery's
That's
involved.
right.
Colin is involved. Who else have we got that's Stargate based? It's based. One of the standing sets is the MacGyver cabin.
That's
sorry,
right.
Richard's cabin in this. That's one of the standing. That's one of the hero sets for us in this. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's got it's Tim Matheson, Annette O'Toole, and Alexander Breckenridge and Martin, who it's a wonderful cast. It's a great cast. The weird thing about it is the way that I pitch people on it is to say, this is one of those shows that when I was doing Stargate, there was a lot of recognition of the name Stargate when I was dealing with sci-fi fans and things like this. And I'd go out into wandering around in the States at different places, and I'd hear it. And when I went to Germany, people went crazy about it.
It's crazy in Europe. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so I had lots of recognition with that kind of stuff. I've never done a show where I've had this much recognition of a title, and it's the weirdest thing, because it's one of those shows that and truthfully, it's one of those things that sort of came out of nowhere. We were all doing the show and we're all going, "Oh, this is okay. This is fun." It's not a hard show to do. It's easy on the crew. It doesn't have a lot of stunts. It doesn't have a lot of that kind of stuff. So we put it together, and it went out for the first year. And then when Netflix released it, it took off, and everyone it did what? It took off, and I remember the one day I came into we were doing season 2. And the showrunner, Sue Tenney, came down and said, Howard Stern wants to know what we're doing in season 2. I went, Howard Stern?
You've captured the cultural zeitgeist.
This is not that kind of show. This
Yeah.
is not something he would. But he and his wife loved the show, I guess, and
Yeah.
wanted to know more about this upcoming season and things. So it's one of those things that a lot of people talk to me about. A lot of people talk to me about. There's a Virgin River fan at the door right now. But they come up to me and they recognize Virgin River. When you say, "What are you doing?" And I'm working at Virgin River. Oh my gosh! And everybody says the same thing. They always go, "My wife loves that show." And then there's a beat, and they go, "Can you tell me about Jack's Bar? I'm not sure about that. Whether like is it really that big?" And you're going, "Wait a minute, you watch the show too. What are you talking about? Your wife likes the show." So it's one of those shows that a lot of people like. So in pitching it, I would say it's one of those crazy shows that has these insane numbers. It kicked the Crown out of first place on Netflix.
Wow.
When we launched the season that last year.
I throw my parents in front of in front of a lot of television that I'm like, I don't have a lot of time for this right now, but you guys go and try it. What you're describing, I hear a lot of that around This Is Us.
It was originally pitched to me like This Is Us, and it is very much along those lines. It isn't as heavily dramatic some days, but there are. I mean, there's more conflict than a Hallmark movie.
Okay.
Way more conflict than a Hallmark series or a Hallmark movie or anything like that. That's not the what it is, but it is that kind of thing where you can turn it on and you won't wince. You won't, you don't have to turn the volume down around the kids. You don't have to, it's very much
soup.
A family show.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have them watch it. And then I'm going to start watching it.
Oh, absolutely. It's something you can recommend it to anybody and not have them come back and go, "What a terrible show," because nobody's ever done that.
Okay. That's great to be a part of, it's bit, tell me a little bit about Double Life.
So Double Life, I got given a thriller to do this year, and it was really interesting because it came down with I got 5 scripts, and I was asked, "Which one of these do you want to do as a thriller? Because we'd like you to do a thriller." This is Paramount, and I went, "Wow,
that's great."
It was a cornucopia. So I sifted through the scripts, and I found the one Double Life that I really, really liked, and I could see the movie when I read it. It's A, very well written, but also B, very visual. One that you can see. Okay. And then we cast it, and we cast Niall Mater, Javicia Leslie, who you may know from Batwoman.
Yes.
And then we cast Tricia Helfer.
I think Aaron Douglas as well.
Well, yes, we did. I mean, Aaron's in a lot of the stuff I do. I always bring Aaron in and do. He came to Guam with me to do Operation
Christmas Drop.
So yeah, we cast that the weekend before we started shooting. Tricia and I had been talking back and forth. She called, and I thought this was going to be her "I'm getting on a plane" call, and it was her "I've just blown my ACL and my knee out" coming in my front door. And I went, "Are you kidding, Tricia?" She goes, "No." And she was in tears, and she's like, "I really want to do this movie. I really want to do this movie." And I'm going, "This is a run and jump. This is a crazy run and jump, this movie." And we both agreed that she probably couldn't do it. And that was such a disappointment. So I had 3 days or shut down to find somebody else. And I called Pascal Hutton. Pascal and I have done any number of series together, 3 series together. And the last time we did action together, big action, other than we did some on Sanctuary, but on Arctic Air, we did some big drama stuff with her, big action stuff with her. And I called and said, "Hey, what are you doing Monday?" And,
wow.
How'd you like to be the second lead in this movie? And she did. And she learned the script and came in, and she and Javicia killed this movie. It's so good. And the movie is about it starts with Niall meeting um, the bartender at a bar and asking her what she's doing afterwards. And then you realize they go to her house, and you realize they're lovers. And then Niall gets in his car, says goodnight to her, and calls his wife. And
Jeez.
yeah, and on the way home gets killed.
Oh
And
God.
yeah, and it's about Pascal, the wife, and Javicia accidentally bumping into each other. Javicia goes to his funeral and hides and
Right.
sees she didn't know he had a wife. And then the two of them come together quite innocuously. And from that point on, it's a secret for a long time that Javicia was with him, but they are looking for the person that murdered her husband. And
Wow.
they get um, they get embroiled in a whole series of things that happen to them because people realize there's somebody looking in these wrong places. And so these two women are shot at and chased and and captured and all this kind of stuff in this thriller that goes back and forth. And it was such a pleasure to work. Javicia Leslie is unbelievably talented, unbelievably talented. She did this incredible um, just this incredible job in this movie. Um, uh, an amazing character, an amazing, believably, as an action figure, she would make a great action figure. Pascal did the same thing. They both did the action wonderfully, and uh, it comes out next year sometime. It's finished. I did another movie called Must Love Christmas, which is coming out very quickly
Okay.
with CBS. Um, and Must Love Christmas was so much fun to do. Um, and uh, it's one of those movies where you finish it and you go, oh, well, that was a pretty good movie, and then you get into an edit suite and you go, wow, this is a really good movie. And it's not a treacly Christmas movie. It's a incredibly funny movie. Um, and I can
Romance
see,
novelist.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Becomes
And you
involved in a
recognize,
love triangle between her childhood crush and a reporter determined to interview her to save his dying magazine.
do you recognize any of the names in there?
Oh, Neil Bledsoe, I think.
Bledsoe was
Ah,
timeless.
Simone.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I love Simone. BJ
yeah.
Harrison is in this project as well. Um,
BJ's in all my movies now. I just finished with her in a new limited series just like 2 days ago.
when you have people that can deliver, why
You know what? I am a
Sarah
huge fan.
Strange. I'm sorry. Sarah Strange
Sarah
too.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You're a huge fan?
I love to work with people that I like to work with,
Yeah.
in this case, I had never met Lisa Lapira, um, and she is unbelievably funny. She is hysterical, and brought something to this movie. She and Neil together brought something to this movie that just it was so hilarious, and it shows up on the screen. So
Wow. Well,
yeah.
this is great. I had a just now got off with Mike Dopood, and
Oh yeah.
because he was recycled a lot for Stargate, and we had that conversation of where he wanted you get certain actors that they're going to deliver for you. You're going to get exactly X, Y, and Z out of them. So might as well bring them in. And then you get other situation like with Tom Macbeth, where he wanted to come in for Atlantis, but was told. He told me, he said that you're too recognizable,
Yeah.
and so but then like Garwin Sanford, he can pull it off as both Nareem and then as Simon. So, but sometimes you get additional projects, and sometimes you don't, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and it's true. It's with long running series, especially, it's tough because you start going through the Vancouver cast
Right.
fairly quickly, and there's been discussions about, well, they haven't been here since season 3.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, maybe we can bring them in as somebody new.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the Stargate started off when Vancouver's cast list was relatively
Yeah.
small. I mean, the Stargate and Sanctuary and all these shows, all these, like a lot of these CW shows and Battlestar, are hugely responsible for helping to expand that industry up there. I went up in September. I didn't recognize the place.
Hmm.
It's ridiculous the number of people who are there now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just crazy. Well,
Yeah.
must
The
love
casting has
Christmas.
gotten better. Yeah.
So that's where are we going to be able to see this?
That's CBS, and it'll
That's
be
on
out
CBS.
very shortly, like in the next week or two, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I don't have a
then
date for it, but yeah, look for it on CBS.
all right. And then the other project is going to have a short theatrical run, you said, with Double Life?
Double Life will have a short theatrical and limited theaters it'll be released in, and then yeah, it'll be on Paramount Plus and
Paramount
possibly
Plus.
CBS as well.
Perfect. That's great. I it's great to see you continuing to do what you love, and
Yeah.
be it's just so refreshing to see, because we hear all these stories about, especially right now with people, being out of work left and right. If you know what you're doing and you can make a good product and bring it in on time and under budget, you're golden. So
I think one of the things is relationship as well, and that's what we're talking
yeah,
about, with actors and also with production companies, and so that where you have a relationship with people there, that know that you deliver and know that you deliver something that they know and love,
right.
you know. And I mean, knock on wood that I'm able to keep doing it, with back-to-back projects like this, because it's a passion I have that I've never lost. I've never, I don't think I've ever, I actually had a conversation with somebody the other day about, have you ever done a show you hated? And I've done shows where there was an element that I didn't particularly like about them, and I've left shows because of that sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But for the most part, I love directing. I love directing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and would direct traffic if that was all.
There's something
Um,
euphoric about it. And I had that conversation with you once about, having a game plan for something, and it's not because you're in control. It's that, you're watching this thing come together with from disparate departments to create one piece of art.
I'll tell you, this project I just finished, this limited series that I just finished. Um, we were out on a street with a slight incline to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a woman walking toward us, a beautiful sunny day, walking toward us on the street, in conversation on her phone. And I mean, it's fairly boring, but it is, walking on a street. So there's a million different ways to shoot it. And she was far enough away that she could do the entire conversation between her, where she started, and where we were. So it's, a block and a half, that she's walking. And it's two sides because we cut back and forth between her and the cop that she's talking to on the other end. And so it doesn't have to be exciting, it doesn't have to be an exciting shot. And normally what you would do is you'd put a camera on her and just pull it back and start walking with her. And occasionally what you do is you put a long lens at one end of the thing, and you zoom in all the way, to 600 millimeters, and then you pull back as she walks back. There's another way to do it, or you can do it from the side and follow her along from the side, or you can there's a million different ways to do it. As we're setting up this shot, I have done one pass where the dolly goes down with the camera on it. The dolly is mounted on a thing called a black arm, and I think we may have talked about the black arm before, which I've been using a lot, which is dolly with a rig underneath it that the camera operator is actually sitting beside me, operating the camera, and the dolly operator is the dolly push is the one that's making the move with the camera. And the camera had come. We'd done one where she walked up, and it was good. It worked. I wanted to do another one. And so I sent the actor back to her number one position. And I was talking to the dolly push for a second, and then I said, "Okay, head back." And he turned the wheels and he jumped on, just like a scooter, and he pushed it forward. And he jumped on, and he's riding away from me. And I've seen dolly pushes do this before, but I looked at the monitor, and I saw this beautiful shot. Stop! Bring it back! We're gonna do it like this. So what happens? It's called a drive-by, and it's just literally she's standing here, and the camera's up here on this thing, and he just gets on, and it goes past her. And that's how the scene starts. And it's all because I just looked at the monitor while he was resetting the camera, and I thought, oh, this is great. That's the kind of thing I love doing. I love doing. And in this thing that I was doing, it had John C. McGinley, Dennis Haysbert, Virginia Madsen. I mean, there's some unbelievable talent in this. John C. McGinley comes up to me at this one thing. He says, what are we going to do with this scene? Because it's really just he realizes he doesn't have power. He has to go all the way out into the driveway to find out why he doesn't have power, and then realizes that his son has sabotaged the court a little bit. And I said, oh, wait till you see this. And I had a crane. I had all this stuff. I had all this stuff set up. And he's going, what do you need everything like this for? And then we did the shot, and he went, oh my God, it's hysterical. It starts on the roof, looking at a solar panel coming down on him when he realizes that it's out of power. And then it's in a close-up of his face when that happens. And then the camera pulls all the way back through the driveway, out past 3 cars, and then ends in a very tight close-up of him looking inside this car window. And shots like that are what I direct for. I'd love to do those kind of things that when you're watching it, all you're doing is following a piece of action. You wouldn't notice it as being a giant shot or anything like that, but it is so much fun to do those kind of things.
There's so many different ways to tell a story, and that I think one of the things that would keep, if I were in your position, keep it fresh, is to keep your eyes open for a different way to tell, the sequence of the gal walking a block and a half talking to the cop on the phone. Yeah. You have to get that story across, but can you also get it across in a way that's interesting, but doesn't distract the audience from the plot? That would be the other thing too. Let's not go too far with this.
Let me bring it back to Stargate for a second.
Okay.
There was, out of 70 odd episodes that I directed, there's one thing that I did all the time, which used to make people crazy. And that is boardroom scenes. And the thing for me about boardroom scenes was consistently trying to find another way to do a boardroom scene.
Yeah.
Because I'd done hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And there's only so many places that you can shoot in that one room. There's only so many places. So only so many ways you can look at it, And it culminated for me in the one scene I did, and I wish I could remember what episode it was. I literally can't. I remember what happened, but I don't remember what episode it was. And I remember thinking this the very first time when I did politics in the first season
with Ronnie Cox. Yeah,
right.
What a heavy hitter.
Literally, the whole thing was around, a table.
Yeah,
right,
and a clip show at that.
Yeah, and had to go back to it in 200. When we were sitting around that table reading the script, and but every episode had some boardroom scene in it for the most part, and you had to think of a way to do it. And I remember walking in when the stage was dark once, and I thought, oh man, what am I going to do with this? And I started looking at the scene, and I thought, wait a second, I can start this scene in the gate room. Mm-hmm. I can bring it from the gate room into the control room, mm-hmm. up the stairs, into the briefing room. And then that's what I did, the trick in the briefing room. This is, and I may have told you the story before about cutting the briefing room table in half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was the one where I had the carpentry crew cut the table in half and put latches on it. Evil Kenny was there that day because I made him push the table back together. So what happens is, if this is the table right here, starting at my fingers and ending at my elbow, we come up the stairs, up the windabout, right around stairs, come up like this, and then the table is pulled apart because I'm looking back this direction. Yes. Table is pulled apart. and I go through the
So you
part
can
that's
walk through
open,
it.
camera like this, and then the camera turns around and goes the other way. And now I'm turning around. And while that's happening, set, deck, and props are pushing this back together and clipping it. And you go back like this, and you see six people on this end of the table, right? And you go like this, and it's like you come back and he lands. And it's like, that's an impossible shot to make because it started in the gate room. It was all one shot all the way up until he sat down.
Is this the scene where you went backwards up the stairs?
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was Nathaniel Massey, who's the B camera, or who was our
Okay.
B camera at the time. Yes, he went backwards up the
My
stairs.
gosh, those are narrow stairs. I'm gonna
Yes.
have to send that one to the forum if anyone can tell us what that episode was. So
Yeah.
directed by Martin Wood, because I there are a couple of shots that I can think of that did that, but I can't name the episodes either. And I remember
Neither
your scene from Continuum where you went through downstairs.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, was the briefing room table? I sold that. I assumed it was always divided in two. Was it?
Never. No. It
You
was all one
separated that for that episode.
for that shot is why I separated it.
I did not know. I thought it was in two for storage.
No, no. It
Wow.
stayed in that stage, and I found it. I found the briefing room table. It's the boardroom table for When Calls the Heart.
It is.
For this for the it's the boardroom table for in production. It's only in the production offices, but the table is in there.
I'll be darned.
Yeah,
It's so iconic. I mean, it's almost as iconic as the gate itself. You
yeah.
know, well, that's crazy. I did not know that. Wow.
And the
Now we're going to be
number,
on the hunt for that scene.
yeah, the number of times when we had to do things like that, and I mean, again, trying to always think of something fun to do in there that was different. You know, like in upgrades.
Yes,
Pushing Dan Shea off the stairs. That was another one that was like, oh, this is much more difficult than it seems, but it's hilarious when you do it.
of
Um,
course.
I remember, and I'm trying to think of what episode it was. Um, I went through the back wall once, and I know it made Brad Wright crazy when I did it because he goes, "We don't go through walls." And I went, "Yeah, but
Through the wall.
it was coming out of the elevator
Uh
beside
huh.
Hammond's office,
Uh huh.
and I had the wall taken out. That was the one that if you're sitting in Hammond's desk, you're looking at the wall over there. I had them
Yeah.
pulled out back. And so what happens is as you come out of the elevator
Uh huh.
and down that hall, you pass Hammond's office. So I'm looking into Hammond's office as we go past. And then I went through one of the pillars, the DEF CON pillar, the one that had the DEF CON sign
Uh
above it.
huh.
I land on the landing of the stairs with it. So it's an impossible shot. Like I didn't even go through a doorway with it. I just went all the way down that way because if you actually had the wall in, the camera would be right against the people that are walking. There's no way to physically do it.
That's that. The things that you guys did with that space and to evolve the spaces it went on. And one of the things that I've always meant to ask you folks, and it never occurs to me until it's too late. When we started the show, the base screen in the briefing room set, there's a static display that's supposed to be cameras looking throughout the base.
Mm-hmm.
Further into the show, you put monitors in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you took them out. Why was that done? Because you actually upgraded it so that we had actual monitors in there
I
and
think we
later
did.
reversed it.
Yeah, I think we did it so that we could see what was happening in certain scenes. There was a reason to have monitors in there. The reason to reverse it is because so much of the time you would have had different activity on those monitors that wasn't going to be on the monitors. If and you would have to have updated the
Okay.
monitors and the security system in there to be able to do something because half the time it was just one or two people walking through and a bunch of stuff like that. In fact, one day I actually had some of the NORAD footage I had in there as well, so you could
Okay.
see the front gate.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, it was whenever there was a state of emergency or something like that, you know, nobody would be running in those scenes.
That's
Nobody
true
would be doing
too. Yeah, it's its own continuity thing. But I mean, in particular with Stargate, man, you have to kind of buy it. I mean, in Colorado Springs and Stargate, it never snows. It's never winter.
it, right?
That was always one of my issues with it. It's like we need like some winter scene, but you couldn't pigeonhole the show to a specific time and play, specific time, obviously a specific place. That's fascinating. The Some of the stuff that you managed to pull off for the show still blows my mind. Like particular A Matter of Time with the black hole and the gravity. That was an episode where you got to pull out so much of what we normally expect. There's a cone in the Stargate effect for the feature film, and it pulls the wormhole, kind of the puddle back. And my understanding was that that effect was not added to the show because the set was too shallow behind
Right.
the Stargate. But in
Yeah.
this episode, you actually managed to pull it off with a camera above, and also that
Right.
whole sequence with Richard Dean Anderson and the actor who played Cromwell.
Right.
In that, tell us about that whole sequence.
So that was one of those things where when I sit down with it, and Brad was always so much fun to do these with because he'd come in, and I remember with a couple of shows, he'd walk in and put the script on my desk and he'd go, "Read it." And I go, "Okay." And he goes, "Now." When you're done. And I knew it was something that he wanted to get some feedback on that was just so much fun. And it always was. It was like everything was these giant transitions, it's those kind of transitions that you do in shows where you actually get to move through time and space like a Stargate allows you to do. And the first time I actually did the split screen from the side of the thing where you walk through one and you come through on the other side. What's fun is doing that split screen and having them walk through and they're not there, obviously. But then I've done it on the other hand where without the wormhole. So it's literally what you would see without the wormhole. It would, if you were looking on the obliquely at the gate like this, you would see somebody go into this one, and then you went and looked obliquely at the other gate. You'd see somebody come out on this one.
Yeah, that's Jack Goes to Adora from the SGC. I think that's Shades of Grey.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
a cool effect.
And I mean, Shades of Grey had it's a lot of interesting effects for me in it. But it's those kind of things where you start thinking about how to do something you do every week differently with that. You'll remember how we did it with the marionettes as well.
Yeah, the marionettes don't last very long, do they?
where you don't get to look up like that very often,
Right.
though, which is really interesting. I mean, the fact that you could look up at that in that episode
And the rafters with the
it came into the gate room. That was something you didn't get very often. But when you asked me about Matter of Time, the hard part was getting them to climb across the gate room, obviously, with the harness. And the way we did it is a very simple effect. It's take the camera and go like this with it and have them climb down a rope. Right?
on a green screen.
Right. Now, the tough part, of course, is they have to be face down, or they have to be going up the rope like this with Jumars, right? So that was the harder part of that. But and honestly, then you just take the scene with them climbing this way and turn it like that, and now they're climbing towards the wormhole.
Control room. Oh yeah, in that case, right.
Yeah.
Man. Did you fake any of those shots where like the shot of the of the bomb? Like did you manage to get anything actually on its side, or was everything green screen for that? Were there any tight shots that you were able to pull off?
No, I think everything had to be. Yeah, if once gravity started to affect the gate room,
Right.
I had to turn everything. I had to have everything happen on the. Yeah, and I think part of it would have been there really was no place to attach cables that would be structural enough to be able
Right.
to support any weight going sideways like that.
Wow. I imagine with the technology that we have now, like with the volume, it would be easier to, if you have the luxury of that technology, to shoot a plate of the gate room and then
100%.
rotate it 90 degrees and
Yeah.
film them in front of it.
I've been using the volume here in town a lot on these past couple of movies. I used it and
So
on
there's one in Vancouver.
there's a small one and there's a huge one.
Okay.
The huge one was used almost exclusively this past year for The Last Airbender, right?
Okay.
But um, for the most part, and it is massive. It's
Yeah.
a crazy size. The one I've been using a lot has been for driving scenes, for fires, for things like that.
Yeah.
I did a movie last year where I needed to use the volume for two driving scenes, two substantial driving scenes. And what we do is we take a Porsche Boxster, and you put an array on top of it. And the reason you use the Porsche is because it's the right size to not see with the cameras that are all looking 360 degrees. Like it's 8 cameras and then one looking straight up. And the Porsche is the right size to not be able to see the car.
Wow.
And so then you just drive around with it, drive around wherever you want to, and you then you project that on all the screens all around you,
It's
and
just
it
extraordinary.
becomes this crazy thing. In fact, I can show you a quick video.
Okay.
It won't be beautiful because it'll be just off of my phone.
No, it's all good. I love show and tell with Martin Wood.
But this, what are we doing here? Um, this is actually from Double Life. Let me just find the piece. So I'm going to show you what the volume sort of looks like to begin with nothing in it.
Okay.
Okay, where are you? I apologize. This is
No,
nothing.
you're okay. I want to see this. This is worth it.
Okay. So this is what the volume looks like with just a vehicle in it. Okay.
Okay.
And the registration screen's coming on. Okay. Then this is what happened.
Wow.
You'll see that we're just driving. That guy with the board is moving the vehicle, so it goes up and down a little
Uh-huh.
bit like they're driving. But when you come back to it here, there's Javicia and Pascal in the car, and it's got all the reflections everywhere.
Everything, and that's the beautiful thing about the volume, the reflections on the glass, on people's faces. You know,
Yeah.
you get the correct tones, and it's remarkable technology.
Yeah, it really is. And there's no other light in that either. That's just they're all lit by
Yeah.
that. The first time I had to use the volume was we were a very quick story for this another movie for CBS last year. We were on our last shot of the night. We had set up a camera on our hero as she was. It was Jessica Camacho was who we were using in that. And Jessica it was her close up, and she was acting with Jeff Gustafson. Jeff Gustafson was on the other side of it, and if you're a Sanctuary fan, you know Jeff very well. But Jeff was an agent in this thing, and he was talking to this woman, and we shot all the other coverage, and all I had to do was shoot Jessica in her close up for the reactions to him. And it was about 2:30 in the morning. We were all tired. We were on the 33rd floor of a condo downtown,
Wow.
trying to be quiet because it's 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
And we set up this last shot. I call for final touches. So they come in. Jessica comes in. She stands on the mark. They start doing final touches, and the fire alarm goes off. Immediate evacuation.
Oh.
We all have to go down 30, walk down 33 floors,
No.
get onto the ground floor in the muster point, and we're all standing there going, "Oh no,
You don't
we're
have your
dead.
shot.
They're
Yeah.
not going to let us back up there."
No.
Not until they figure out what this fire thing is. And quite honestly, tomorrow, we're not here anymore, and
Yeah.
we have to have night to shoot this scene because it's looking at
Yeah.
these beautiful windows in this 33rd floor.
Yeah. You can't
And
make your day. You're downstairs.
and the camera operator looks at me and he goes, "Well, we are in a light wall tomorrow." And I went, "Wait a second, send everybody home except for the DP
Wow.
and the gaffer." And
Yeah.
I walked up to the DP, Peter Stathis. I said, "Peter, when we get to go back up there,
Get the shot.
push record on the background. Record 2 minutes worth of time, and then we'll just take it into the light wall."
That's
So in
remarkable.
this movie, and there's no way you can tell. We just put Jeff and,
Yeah.
Jessica back in this thing on the light wall, and it looks like we're there. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
how
totally faked. Isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah.
Man, oh man, that technology continues to blow my mind. I have been waiting for over a year to see 1899. It's now
Yeah.
out. I can't wait to see this thing yet. Set on the Atlantic Ocean, and I mean, that's a big one. I mean, that is
Yeah.
like enormous. Have you seen the show? Have you seen the trailers
Yeah.
for this?
I've watched a couple of episodes of it.
Is it good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly is. It's not what you think it is right off the
Okay.
bat. You get into it and you go, "Oh my God, wait a second.
Yeah,
What are we?"
I love a good mystery box. I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for them. So
Yeah.
that's great. The technology that's coming, man, it's just making your jobs easier and in some ways more complicated.
I mean, think about Mandalorian for a minute. And if you watch the behind the scenes, the making of,
Yeah.
Jon Favreau does such a great job of saying, the thing it frees you up about, and he said this to any number of the directors that were there. I think it was Bryce Dallas, Bryce Howard that he's talking to about it, or
Is it Taika Waititi?
no, it was one of the other directors that I
Okay.
remember saying he came in after he'd done the previs, because you do the previs
Yeah.
so that they can build these things for you,
Yeah.
so the backgrounds can be built. And then he came in to shoot the show, and John stopped him and he said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, this is what I did in the previs." He goes, "You don't have to do that anymore. Shoot whatever you want." Most of that was so that you could get it in your head, but
Yeah.
truthfully, you have the backgrounds built. That's what it was for, was to build what backgrounds you need.
Yeah. Now go to town.
Now you can go. If you had it locked into a shot like this and you have to shoot this, no, you don't. You can come over here. You can come over here. You can you can do this kind of stuff, because they've built these now. And you sit there going, "Oh yeah, previs is one thing." Like previs with Stargate was do it so that VisFX could make the movie that you wanted to make, but you were locked into those shots. If I want to do this shot, I have to do this shot. If I want to do this shot, I have to do this shot, because what they're going to build is what they've budgeted for.
Correct. It's money. It's time.
Yeah, but now with those environments being made, it's so much better. And like he says, you can do 8 hours on a sunset if you want to,
Man.
which you've never been able to do before.
No.
8 hours on a sunset, it'd have to be a map painting.
Right. But now it's dynamic and it's actually happening. It's just
And truthfully, and I mean, Mandalorian does such a great job of it because of his suit.
right.
You see everything reflected everywhere. It's like he's wearing a space helmet all the time.
Right.
And that's when you really like that stuff and you're not even using the real the Unreal Engine for it, because it everything else can be low res for the resolution or for the reflection. It's just that one spot that needs to be, that you're looking at, the camera's looking at, that the Unreal Engine needs to take over with.
And you were tinkering with that back in Continuum with the jets.
We were doing that. We were also, it was one of the things we first started talking about with both Sanctuary and Olympus. We had sets built that would track the camera. The unfortunate thing was it was more than that. It was you had to previs everything and have it built. And on a series like ours, there was just no time. The Sanctuary would have been an entirely different show
Oh,
if we.
completely. But you guys were breaking ground there, you know?
Yeah, and I think that one of the things we fought with all the time was the this green spill.
Hmm.
You know? Because any reflective surface, you'd still have that green spill. So cars, all those kind of things, everything was you had to take the green out of.
Right. Or lights. I remember watching the web version of Sanctuary. The guy goes into a sewer and he points a light at the camera, and the light like hits like the edges of his shape, and then but there's no like it doesn't spill out like into the broader. There's only so much that you can repair, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but yeah, what well, what a ride. So any updates on the Sanctuary movie potentially?
I don't actually, and
Okay.
that's not me being cagey. I literally don't have any update on it yet. I
Okay.
know that Damien was working on a manifesto for it. That was the last I heard about that, and I just got so busy with everything else. I haven't checked in.
I
But
need to check in with him. We need to get him on the
yes,
show soon to talk with him because he's been so busy. So a lot of good stuff coming his way. I want to switch over. I have a lot of these to table. So hopefully, like next year, we can get you back.
no
Um,
problem.
I have some fan questions here if I can get them up. General Maximus, a favorite episode or Stargate memory working with these various casts that stands out to you years later? Like so many of these people you've gone on to work with on so many other projects.
So, asking the question again.
Is there any particular, for instance, Amanda Tapping? Is there any particular memory that you have working with Amanda on Stargate that stands out with you over all these years?
18 years of being with Amanda Tapping. It stands
Yeah.
out. I mean, she was ridiculously good on everything she did, and which is why I did another series afterwards with her, and
Yeah.
then brought her into into everything that I did, with Primeval, and everything from that point on that I did, that I had any control over. I tried to get Amanda into. So yeah, I mean there was that. There was I mean it's so funny to talk about cast, because I've done lots with Michael. I've done lots with
Mm-hmm.
Lexa. Lexa and I have done 3 or 4 series together. Including Virgin River,
Mm-hmm.
and Michael too in Virgin River in the first season. Um, but um, I mean, all of those guys would do it. I haven't seen much of Chris. And Rick and I would occasionally talk to each other. For years we sort of had occasional contact with each other. I haven't talked to him for a long time, but and Momoa is out there now, that
Oh
you
man.
can't get close to him if you wanted to, but still the one person I remember will always be embedded in my memory, because I did the very first episode that he showed up.
Runner.
But then uh, uh, he was the only person I've ever met in my life whose head was too big to go in a space helmet, like in a giant space helmet. You know how they fit on, they go.
Right.
His head's too big to go in there, and he comes over and he goes, "Marty, uh, this isn't gonna work." What do you mean? He goes, "Won't fit." I said, "Is it the dreads?" He goes, "It's my skull." So that was hilarious.
That's great.
But there's been lots of cast members that I have tried, in some way or a shape or form, to try and get into something I'm doing.
Mm.
A lot of that was from Sanctuary too, with Chris Heyerdahl. Chris Heyerdahl, I mean, again, he's one of those people that he's godfather to my kids.
He's a remarkable guy.
Yeah, and so I see him, personally, sometimes, but I can't get close to him if I try to get him on something, because he's doing everything right now.
Wow. Yeah, I've tried to get him on the show a couple of times now, and every time the agent's like, we're not doing any publicity right now. It's like, I don't blame him. So
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
extraordinary.
and it's everywhere. I had hoped when he was here doing Peacemaker,
Mm.
to be able to connect with him, and we had dinner one night at a friend's place, and that was the last time we sort of got to sit down with each other. Um, But people like Chris I've always tried to, Robin Dunn's another one where
Right.
Sanctuary, where I pulled him into a lot of stuff. Emilia Ulurep, I've done a number of series with now, and look to her sometimes. But again, from Stargate itself, because we used everybody on it.
Mm-hmm.
I did something else with Roger Cross when I did Dark Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger's another one I've tried to get out here a couple of times, and he's just, you know, uh, it's tough to get a hold of some of these people. I just finished working with Patrick Seboingi, right, who I did some work with on Primeval, and a movie with Luke Perry. He and I did it, but again, you look for these people that you love to work with, and it's tough. Taro and I have done 4 series together. She did
Wow.
Travelers. She did. She's one of those other ones. It's ubiquitous. She can show up in so many of these different places.
Teresa MC wants to know, Martin, what do you think personally a new Stargate series has to bring to the table if another one does come off the ground at Amazon? We know Brad's written a treatment for a fourth.
Yeah.
What do you think it has to do?
Well, I gotta say, I mean, I wouldn't speculate to what it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the formula that worked so well with Stargate was the cast,
Mm-hmm.
the team, the cast. It was the team. And I mean, you build the world away from that team, right? Everything builds away from SG-1. What was successful about it was a small team doing that. Now, Atlantis was a slightly bigger team, and Universe was an even bigger team, when you get into that. But I think what worked for it was the chemistry of those 4 people, the core group,
Yeah.
that were the team, worked so well. And I think it came at a time when everyone was hungry for that kind of sci-fi. Right now, there's not a lot that is out there that is that kind of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Stranger Things is essentially the same thing. It's this little team
It is.
the elements, and that's what works with Stranger Things is this little team working on this, and for me, that is what is effective about Stargate is that, just getting this team dynamic to work. And I would love to see something like that come back where, I mean, the program is ubiquitous. It can be anywhere. It can do anything. You saw it in space. You saw it on a different planet. You saw it, so it's not like it has to be,
Correct.
at the bottom of
Cheyenne Mountain.
Cheyenne Mountain anymore.
Yeah, there's always government funding.
Yeah, and truthfully, there's also a million different places you could go. Like when we did get to deal on different planes, and you do get to meet your doppelganger somewhere, and they're slightly different, like McKay and Mrs. Miller, when you get to meet the leather jacket McKay.
Rod.
Right? Yeah, you go, oh yeah, wait a second, all of that still exists. All of it exists everywhere. And I mean, what's funny to me is I would love to see it run along the lines of a Rick and Morty,
Oh,
where
universe hopping. Yeah.
yeah, it's no rules, when you get to that kind of stuff. But I know Brad's brain. I did know Brad's brain well enough to sort of say Brad loves to root things in that kind of thing. And I mean, I don't think that part of Brad has changed, because the part of Brad that we connected with all the time was we connected very much on that level of this has to be, whether or not the Stargate works, it has to be rooted in a physics that works.
Right.
And Brad's brain is brilliant at that kind of stuff. He can apply the physics to things to make them believable in with what is the word for it? I remember reading a true fact once that the Mayans were capable of FM radio except for one thing. It never said what that one thing was, but the fact is that
they came that close. Yeah.
Yeah, that capability exists. And nobody but Brad that I know could do those kind of things, could
Mm,
put that kind of thing together.
wow.
So, and I'm sure I've missed the mark on what he's thinking about pitching by 100 yards
Well,
because
that's Brad. You know, he's always coming up with something that's like, well, I didn't see that one coming. I mean, you can't do
we
17 seasons of a show of a franchise and have it be just, you know, A, B, C, D. You know, it
Brad
has
and
to
I
go into unexpected places.
we went out and pitched a show together. We went to England, we went into the States, we went everywhere with it called Light Years. And it was a beautiful concept. It was beautiful. And unfortunately, I think that it kind of got scooped in a not very professional way. And I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It got scooped from us. And the idea that he had, which would have made a way better show than what was made, would have been unbelievable. And that for me was another of those Brad Wright creations where you sit there going, I have no idea where he gets it, but when he locks into something, he really knows how
He's
to
got
make
it.
it happen. Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up. Dan Ben wanted to know, have you ever seen something used from Stargate or one of your shows without permission?
Oh, I just watched something the other day that had a Stargate in it. I did.
They
It's
do
just
pop up all the rather
yeah,
alarmingly.
yeah, and they called it a Stargate too. And I'm trying to think of what it was. Um, but it was virtually the same thing. It was the Stargate, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder, you know,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what it was, and it wasn't. It was like a week or two ago. Anyway, it is. Warrior Nun.
Warrior
Uh,
Nun. Oh,
Warrior Nun.
they had something like that. Really?
And I mean that Simon wouldn't have taken something like that. It's just that it actually makes sense for it to be
Yeah.
what it is. The physics of it made sense for what they were doing. And he did a very good job of making it not look like a Stargate with it. But I thought, oh, it's a Stargate. It's just you see that kind of stuff pop up. I, uh, I have I don't think I've seen anything that was not that
That was like
would have
illicit. Okay.
it would have been intentionally used like that.
Okay.
Like I've seen Ronan's gun pop up a couple of times in different things where it's
That's
like,
true.
well, I mean, it wasn't our we didn't have priority or proprietary
Proprietary.
um, hold on the shape of a gun,
Right. Exactly.
and it made sense to have something that could rifle a pistol that would rifle a little bit longer barrel. So but it did look kind of, the same. And even looking at what's funny is the BFG behind you, the BFB behind you.
Oh, the Naquita generator? Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the top. This was the top of the BFG, the smaller Naquita generator for sure.
right.
Yep. You got it.
And that I've seen pop up any number of times in different things.
Oh, its brother is getting made right now by a fan
Oh, nice.
of a friend of mine who's actually worked out the larger one. He's
Oh,
the craftsmanship in these fans are just extraordinary.
and if you knew how Amanda handled it the first day, I remember, I remember where we were. I remember exactly where we were when we did it because there was a sun scorching the earth that we were at, and you were watching it roll in, and Amanda was frustrated by the opening on this thing, and she was frustrated by it, and she stood up, and something that she was wearing got caught underneath it, and it tumbled off, and it just rolled, and she's going, let it go."
Oh gosh,
um,
jeez, oh man.
um, anyway, yeah, there's some things like that are out there that sort of show up. It's interesting. Like when you watch something like if you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Yeah,
which is one of those movies that I sort of have in my head, and then you start seeing things from it, like when you see the Death Star
right.
and you see the exact same portal into the Death Star that the Pan Am ship is coming into, on the base. You're like, oh, that's interesting how that affected, George Lucas and how it affects. So it's those kind of things, and they're homages more than they are,
Rip-offs.
Yeah.
Well, go. I mean, if a design element works, use it, but make it your own. You know.
Yeah.
So
I have not seen any Zat Nicotels around. I don't know why they didn't. You know, there's probably some porn movies that are used in them, but
I can only imagine for sure. Martin Wood, producer, director, Stargate. Sir, thank you so much for joining us once again. I hopefully we can get you back at some point in the new year here, and continued best wishes for all of the work that's coming your way, man. This is great.
I appreciate it. And good luck with everything that you're doing with this, David and Summer, and the fact that you guys are taking this the way that you are. I think it's great, and I will always be here for you to talk to.
I
anytime.
appreciate you. It's just a matter of time before Amazon does something with it, and so we're gonna ride that wave as long as we can.
Yeah, good for you guys.
Thank you, sir. You have a great holiday, and
You too,
I'll be
and
in
happy
touch with you in the new year.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a good one, sir. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Martin Wood, producer and director from Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis. I think he has a production credit on Universe as well as a consultant. Always excited to have him and have him join us. So this coming week on Dial the Gate, actually, if I can get my right screen here. So Wormhole Extremists, that was Martin today. Andy Frizzell is joining us next Saturday, December the 3rd at 12 noon Pacific time. She was the Wraith Queens on Stargate Atlantis. And followed by Jenny Stiven and Darren Sumner. We're going to discuss the state of the gate. So bringing all the current Stargate news and what's going on with the new series. And with Amazon owning MGM, that's going to be 1 hour later at 1 p.m. Pacific time. 1 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, December the 3rd. Tomorrow, if you want to do a live rewatch with us, we're doing The Broken Divide and The First Commandment. And that's an Apple ad. Very good. That's going to be over at the Wormhole Extremist channel. And so if you want to look in the details pane of this particular video, you can actually see the link to Wormhole Extremists below. I've gone ahead and added that there. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to start The Broken Divide and The First Commandment. A little bit of banter before and after. Just make sure you have your own copy of the episodes. And you can join me and Nicole and Evie, the Wormhole Extremists, for our live rewatch. Holidays are here. And Dial the Gate is brought to you every week for free, and we do appreciate you watching. And if you want to support the show further, buy yourself some of our themed swag. Certainly someone on your list, your Christmas list, your Hanukkah list, your Kwanzaa list, your holiday list is a Stargate fan. Surely, please, possibly. We are now offering t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, and hoodies for all ages, as well as cups and others accessories in a variety of sizes and colors at dialthegate.com/merch. Thanks so much for your support. I think that's all we got here. Teresa MC. Martin wanted me to ask Martin, how would you cast David Reed in a series? That would... I was going to ask him that. I can't imagine. Where I would get it's a background performer for sure. Dan Ben, are there any references to Stargate and other shows or media that you have liked? Have put any references to something in Stargate or one of your shows? There is, I think, Stargate has been used successfully at a number of. I guess that's a question for Martin. Never mind then. That's not a question for me. I love the South Park episode In Sheepshin, because I think they brought Kurt Russell back for that episode, and they're definitely using the Stargate as well. Thanks so much to Summer and to Tracy for making this episode possible as the moderating team, and continued thanks to Anthony, Reese, Jeremy, and Keith my producer, Linda, Gategabbler Fury, and Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web. He is responsible for keeping dialthegate.com up to snuff. We're going to be rolling out a new version of that apparently soon here. He's got something in the works. That mastermind has always got something going on. A big, tremendous thanks to Martin Wood for joining us once again. He's always got fascinating stories to tell and stuff to share. And that's what we've got for you today. So join us next week for Andy Frizzell and State of the Gate, and tomorrow for the Wormhole Extremists. All of those dates and schedules are available at dialthegate.com. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. My name is David Reed, and I'll see you on the other side.